Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Nandana Brajajanara Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Thira Vanachadi Jamuna Thira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamana Thira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Astatara Srimad His Divine Grace Romapada Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning is text 52. We're closing in on the end of the chapter, almost there. Chapter 24, Canto 8. Tvam sarvalokasya sarit priyeshvaro Yatma gurur jnanam abhishta siddhihi Tatapi loko na bhavantam andhadir Janati santam hridi baddha kamaha Tvam sarvalokasya suhrit priyeshvaro Yatma gurur jnanam abhishta siddhihi Tatapi loko na bhavantam andhadhir Janati santam hridhi baddha kamaha. Ladies, please. Tvam sarva lokasya surit priyeshvaro yatma guror jnanam abhishta siddhi tatapi loko na bhavantam antadhir janati santam hridhi baddha kamaha. Tam sarva lokasya surit priyeshvaro guru siddhi tatapi loko na bhavantam antadhir jananti tam sarva lokasya surit priyeshvaro yatma guror jnanam abhishta siddhi Tvam, you, my dear Lord, Sarva Lokasya, of all planets and their inhabitants, Suhrit, the most well-wishing friend, Priya, the most dear, Isharaha, the supreme controller, He also, Atma, the supreme soul, Guruhu, the supreme teacher, Jnanam, the supreme knowledge, Abhishta Siddhi, the fulfillment of all desires, Tata Api, still, Lokaha, persons, Na, not, Bhavantam, unto you, Anta Dehi, because of blind intelligence, Janati, can know, santam, situated, hridi, in his heart, badha kamaha, because of being bewildered by material lusty desires. Translation, my Lord, you are the supreme well-wishing friend of everyone, the dearmost friend, the controller of the supersoul, the supreme instructor, and the giver of supreme knowledge, and the fulfillment of all desires. But, although you are within the heart, the foolish, because of lusty desires in the heart, cannot understand you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Herein the reason for foolishness is described, because the conditioned soul in this material world is full of materialistic lusty desires. He cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although the Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati. It is because of this foolishness that one cannot take instructions from the Lord, although the Lord is ready to instruct everyone, both externally and internally. The Lord says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupiyanti te. In other words, the Lord can give instructions on devotional service by which one can return home back to Godhead. Unfortunately, however, people do not take this devotional service. The Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, can give one complete instructions on going back to Godhead, but because of lusty desires, one engages himself in materialistic activities and does not render service to the Lord. Therefore, one is bereft of the value of the Lord's instructions by mental speculation. One cannot understand that one is, one can understand that one is not the body, but a spirit soul. But unless one engages in devotional service, the real purpose of life is never fulfilled. The real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, and live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and eat with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are different items of ananda, spiritual happiness, in spiritual variegatedness. Even though one may come to the platform of Brahmabhuta and understand his spiritual identity with speculative knowledge, one cannot enjoy spiritual life without understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is indicated here by the word abhishta siddhihi. Abhishta siddhihi, word for word, is the fulfillment of all desires. One can fulfill the ultimate goal of life only by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Then the Lord will give one proper instructions how to go back home, back to Godhead. So there's a lot packed in the verse and purport. The theme, once again, is compare, contrast. The position of one that doesn't and the position of one that does. The qualification of one that, disqualification of one that doesn't, the qualification of one that does. Understand the goal of life. Prabhupada begins the purport by saying the reason for foolishness is given in this verse. And it's the last phrase, badha kamaha. Badha is derived from the word buddhi, means intelligence, and specifically buddhi means spiritual intelligence, or the intelligence how to get to Krishna. And kamaha means desire. Now Prabhupada has translated as lusty desire, but read carefully in the purport. It's materialistic activities. So lusting is not just specific to sex desire. Commonly that's, the label of lust or the corresponding feature of lust. But lust means, in a broader sense, desiring to be the enjoyer of the objects of the senses. In a broader sense, it's lusting after the position of Krishna. Because it's Krishna's energy, he's the enjoyer, and coveting the position of Krishna to be the enjoyer instead of Krishna, in a broad sense, that's lust. In a more specific sense, often Prabhupada would say the whole of materialistic life is driven by sex desire, meaning, that all the fruitive activities that people do is to create an arrangement or situation where sex desire can be fulfilled. He gives the example that in some countries, specifically he mentions in Japan, in order to improve economic development, they encourage sex desire because it increases economic development. And then the worry is if people become not attracted to sex desire or restrained in their sex drive, the gross national product will go down. So it's not good for the economy. So promote sex desire. So there certainly is a connection between the explicit attraction of sex and fruitive activities. But the broader sense is fruitive activities or material activities where one wants to be, in a lustful way, the enjoyer of Krishna's property. Sita without Ram. The kingdom of God without God. It's passion. Kamesha, Krodesha. That the involvement in the material energy is inspired by lust or inspired by passion. I want to enjoy. And then you fill in the blank. It keeps changing, but the thing that doesn't change is the spirit of I want to be the enjoyer. That's this baddha kamaha. So because of that baddha kamaha, foolishness comes. And the other phrase that's in the verse is andha di. Andha di. Di again indicates that syllable. Di indicates intelligence. And andha di, we've heard each of the verses successively. The word andha means blind. Blind. Andha di, one's intelligence is blinded. That's the foolishness. By what? By desire. Specifically, lusty desire or kama baddha, intelligence that, we were speaking the other day about filters. So filters are filtering whatever is out there. I'm only seeing where's the opportunity to enjoy, and each of us have, according to guna and karma, some attraction to enjoy. I had this really nice, realization once upon a time. Jitendra will certainly remember that famous winter where we were distributing so many books at O'Hare Airport, and that same winter is when Pragosh and some others got punched, and it was it was interesting winter. And so many books were being distributed, and right after that, shortly after that, the Puerto Rico airport became legal for book distribution. So there were 2 devotees out of the airport party that were requested to go to Puerto Rico to distribute books and open the place, because we were not necessarily the Maharata book distributors, but mild enough and sociable enough that we would not disturb the airport administrators in the entry level of Here Come the Hare Krishnas. So it was Gajahanta and myself. We went to Puerto Rico. I didn't speak Spanish, but I learned quickly enough to sell a book. And then we found by being there that there were times when it was busy and times when it was slow, different times of the week. So we started exploring during the times it was slow. Maybe we thought, let's go to some of the other islands. And so we found out how to do that. And it was really good when we got there. But the way that you get there is something that I had never done before: pontoon airplanes. So you get on in a boat to go to an airplane or a dock there's an airplane that's got pontoons, and they take off with pontoons, and zoom, zoom, off you go. So we're flying over islands, looking down, and over there's a sugarcane plantation, and over there's a resort, and over there's a military base. And when you're flying in the air, it's at one island, another island, another island. But somebody, according to their desire, they want agriculture. Someone, according to their desire, they want tourism. Someone, according to their desire, they want military. It's just, so what happens to the world, it's neutral, it's prakriti. But according to the karma of the living entity, they transform the prakriti into an object that suits their fancy. And then those persons pass on, and it becomes something else and something else. It was a nice... Prakriti is, in one sense, neutral, but if the living entity has passion or rajogun, then there's a particular appeal. Remember very clearly Prabhupada explaining, this is the nature of Maya. There's some appeal. Prabhupada said it's like a prostitute, beckoning. Come on and enjoy me. Come on and enjoy me. And then he said, so I can kick you in your face. And in the Greek mythology, there's this character who does that. It's a lady who is beckoning, and it's Maya. So Maya is neutral in one sense, but if there's Maya act differently, if we're, as referred to in the purport, Brahmabhuta, neutral. Then Prakriti, or Maya, is neutral. She doesn't interfere. Unless we move again into the space of mode of passion, and then there's fall down from that Brahmabhuta platform. As long as, one main point of the purport as well as the verse is, as long as there's lusty desire, in broad sense, lusty desire, I want to enjoy Prakriti, then one's intelligence is spoiled. And one whose intelligence is spoiled cannot understand the goal of life from the previous verses. Sva artagatim. They can't. They can't. They can even agree notionally, but they can't even really understand what that notion means, to be in a relationship with God where you're simply serving Him. Because the other way is, I believe in God and He's my order supplier, and here's my inventory, is my shopping list, and He's got a big warehouse. So that's this abhishta siddhihi phrase in the verse. Abhishta siddhihi is He's the place where all desires are fulfilled. He's the place where all desires are fulfilled. So you go to Him because I've got all these desires, and then it's not devotional service. It's, even if it's theistic or impersonal, there's one of the many nice verses in the Bhagavatam is Queen Kunti's prayer, where the phrase begins, Namo akinchana vitaya. And the translation is that Kunti's saying, you are the master of the monists. So even for the monists, the Lord is their master. Their desire is, let me out of here. And He's the master that can get them out of there. But even if they do the let me out of here program, they still haven't gone back to God, and still haven't reached the goal of life. Unfortunately. Even if, so there's lots of, exceptions to even if. Many persons may aspire and not get to that position. And even if they get to that position, again they fall, according to the Bhagavatam. Avashuddha buddhaya. Because, again, this word buddhi, because intelligence is not purified. What's that purified? There's shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. That's engagement in devotional service at the lotus feet of Krishna. If they don't have the association of a devotee and get it or accept the conclusion is engage in devotional service to Krishna, they can't go back to Godhead. They can't know the goal of life. They can't know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The other two preceding verses say the same thing. It's said here again, the ascending process doesn't work. Here it says specifically, one, through the ascending process, through the process of gyan, or cultivation of speculative knowledge, one may come to the position of knowing the soul, distinct from the body. There's two verses in the Bhagavatam. One is in Krishna's instructions to Uddhava, but there's another that comes earlier in the second canto, where by the process of ascending cultivation of knowledge, one can come to the conclusion of Brahman. One may even come to the conclusion of the personality of Godhead, but without devotional service, you can't connect. You can have an understanding. Like, for example, by the process of meditation. Meditation on what? The meditation is popular out there these days, becoming more and more popular, so that people can feel peaceful. And I'm learning this, dopamine stimulation is subsiding. The neurotransmitter that says happiness and distress subsides, and so they can experience relief from the attraction of material happiness and the distress that follows the attraction from material happiness, kamesha, krodesha. So they like, meditation. And then they go back to the material activities and it gets disturbed. Like Prabhupada's example from this easy journey to other planets, 1960s. You can send a rocket ship up in space, but after some time it has to come down, unless it takes shelter somewhere. You up, 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 up. Down, 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 down. The Ferris wheel program. Unless there's shelter. So, again, by the process of gyan, one can go very high, but one has to come back down. If you don't, without shelter in the personality of Godhead, without the process of devotional service. How does that process of devotional service come about? Through association of those that are engaged in the process of devotional service. They're carrying bhakti, and they can give bhakti. But persons whose intelligence is contaminated, they'll say no. They're saying yes, but they're not really doing yes. They're still hankering for material enjoyments, the mixed platform. And it doesn't have to be the gross kind, it can be the subtle kind. It can be a combination. But as long as there's that hankering, that's the kama part. Buddha kama. Hankering for, I'm at the center. It's about me, after all. I find it fascinating that what's it like where the seat of consciousness is me, and it changes to the center of consciousness is Krishna consciousness. There's still me, but then Krishna is at the center. What's that like? It's all about Krishna's happiness. I'm aware of Krishna's happiness. That's my focus, and that's my happiness. And that's what I'm conscious of and pursuing as Krishna's happiness. That's bhakti. And we're cultivating bhakti. And in the mature stage, there isn't something else. There's only Krishna's happiness. consciousness. What's that like? It's the condition of love. There's happiness because of that condition of love, or the condition of love is Krishna's happiness is everything. I'm focused upon Krishna's, that's Vraja Bhakti. And exactly as what Prabhupada's saying in this purport as he did in the other purports. What's the goal? I mean, back to God, what does that mean? To live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and eat with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, he's not stating it, but this is Vraja Bhakti. It's Raga Bhakti. It's within the purport. He's just not waving a flag saying that's what it is. It's our hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is hearing from him, is cultivating that right from the first canto. Because it's there in the first canto. The position of the exalted position of the love of the residents of Vrindavan. First canto. Queen Kunti, for example, is glorifying others because she's a pure devotee. She doesn't see herself as qualified. She sees others as qualified. And how fortunate is this one, that one, the other one, the other one. She doesn't even mention Mother Jasoda, and later Mother Jasoda's off the charts. The kind of love that Mother Jasoda has, I can't understand at all. Etc. The whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam is, through sound vibration, carrying us to that position. And to hear it, and to receive it, one's intelligence has to be free from other, the mix position, other than Krishna's desire, other than Krishna's happiness. And the means to get to that no other than Krishna's happiness, it's all throughout the Bhagavatam. There's one other verse I wanted to mention, which comes from the original preceptor of our Sampradaya, Lord Brahma. Same message, just expressed in a very beautiful way, and often quoted in a very important verse, comes in chapter 14 of Canto 10, Brahma's prayers to Krishna, the whole chapter. After the stealing of the calves and the cowherd boys, and this exchange with Krishna where he sees something, it's just overwhelming, he faints and falls before Krishna and offers beautiful prayers. So the verse is text 3 of that chapter. It begins, Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva. Jnane prayasa. Jnane is knowledge, or in the vocative, Jnane prayasa. Prayasa means endeavor. Udapasya, completely giving up. Completely giving up the attempt to understand Krishna by the process of speculative knowledge. Now, speculative knowledge has, some utility, at least, theoretically, to understand I'm not this body. But it doesn't have any efficacy in bringing one to the position of loving devotional service. So, Jnane prayasa udapasya. Namanta eva. Namaha is offering obeisances. Eva, like exclusively. It's exclusive devotional service without any endeavor for speculative knowledge. Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva. San mukaditam bhavadiya vartan. It's being engaged in what we're doing right now, hearing the wonderful pastimes of the Personality Godhead in a heart that's not interested in gathering knowledge, in a heart that's interested in being engaged in my relationship or our relationship with Krishna. Through that sanmukaditam bhavadiya vartan, to that sound vibration. And being situated in that way, although the Supreme Lord connects immediately with what's being said in the purport, although he's unknowable, he's unconquerable, he can be known and he can be conquered. It's not like I become stronger than he is. It's just his mercy flows to one who has that heart, that disposition. And then nothing can stop that. No obstacle can stop that. But there are obstacles that can stop that. And that's from inside, it's not even from outside. Nothing from outside can stop Krishna's mercy flowing into the life of a devotee. But something inside can. So we cultivate. That's sadhana bhakti. What are we cultivating? We're cultivating that disposition of heart where there's no other shelter but Krishna's happiness, and trying to understand him only by that method, both, as Prabhupada is saying in the purport, externally and internally. He's ready, more than ready. He's pleased, take it. And, we're in this mixed position. We say yes, and we also say yes to something else. So we don't get the full opportunity that's being extended. Therefore, sadhana, we regularly hear and continue to tune our hearts towards that gift that Bhagavatam wants to give and our disciplic succession wants to give, and what's really going to make us happy. Again, Prabhupada refers in the purport to the word ananda. These mentions of being with Krishna, that's what real ananda is. Not something else. Not something that's limited and temporary. As the previous verses are speaking, a cheating personality promises limited and temporary, including even this, liberation thing. It's not permanent. It's temporary. Without shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, it's not permanent. It's temporary. It's not a stable position. It may give one relief, but it's not a stable position. It's not ananda. And the soul wants that. But the soul has to get beyond the idea that's about me, my ananda, that's the goal. It's Krishna and his happiness, and then that ananda comes. And then I can understand Krishna and go back to Godhead, etc. And play with him and eat with him and dance with him and be in his companionship all the time. Nothing but. That's the Bhagavatam's message. Isn't it a nice message? It's very unique. Any discussion? Yes.
Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada, Maharaj Satyavrata is approaching Lord Matsya as Guru.
Yes.
And Prabhupada explains in the purport that Krishna as Guru is instructing us
Yes.
to how to come to devotional service internally and externally, Prabhupada said. I was wondering, or wanted to ask you, that Krishna instructing us in devotional service internally, when is that happen in the process of growing in Krishna consciousness?
It happens moment to moment. It happens, right now. It happens when we, Super Soul gives intelligence to the materialist according to guna and karma, to fulfill material desire. Just as this, avishta siddhihi. He's the fulfiller of desire for the materialist. He gives intelligence to the materialist. You know these examples. The thief wants to steal. So Super Soul is in his heart saying, go at night. Stay behind the tree because someone's coming. Okay, go ahead now. They passed. Supersoul is giving intelligence to the thief, to the cat, to jump on the table when the housewife is gone to take the milk. Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. You know, the fish to swim upstream to do their mating. Matings, you know, where does the intelligence come from to do that? Supersoul. And then the step in the direction of the Supreme, Supersoul gives that. So it happens at moment to moment. Then it's a question of, you know, how much how strong is our receptivity? It has a lot to do with the coverings. Even if one has a strong desire, the coverings may filter out. But, you know, so it's a mixed signal. Some material, something spiritual. But it happens as soon as one turns one's attention towards the Supreme. No time lag, immediately. And one of the first things, according to what Scripture and Prabhupada teaches us, is Krishna sends someone from outside, and he's from inside also prompting. Both, immediately. Inside and outside.
Thinking also the obstacle is easier to read something like this and think, oh, I can have a relationship directly with Krishna, but
Yes.
you know, the external instruction, the person that Krishna sends, then
well, that's not that's a misunderstanding of a direct relationship with Krishna. The external person is not, you know, two's company and three's a crowd. It's transparent. Through the medium of, that's a direct relationship with Krishna. Minus the transparent medium of Krishna, it's not a relationship. It's something else. It's something, but it's not, you know, it's not the full something. It's a shadow of the something, of the real thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, 2 questions over here.
Maharaj, how to make more commitment to the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam?
To make more commitment?
To reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. I like to read Bhagavatam, but when the services are more, or some guests are at home to take care of the things, then it's a tendency is to, even though I have a feeling I'm missing it, but there is a tendency I cannot make it to read, and then it's very difficult to read for days till I come out of that service or taking care of the guests or something. So I want to how to commit more, like not to leave reading.
Not to do what?
Not to like take it easy to read or not to leave it.
Well, that's a good start. You're halfway there. The desire to go from A towards B, that's, you know, you're halfway there. Then, you know, then forming a habit takes more than just like forcing yourself. And maybe in the beginning it says forcing yourself, or I make a commitment, and then it's just regulative. That's maybe a beginning. However, my suggestion is, if the reason why is more clear, then the what becomes much easier. And then the how. Why? there's no harm in giving attention to the what and how, but it won't be sustainable. It'll be quite intermittent and not as satisfying. So go to the why. Why do we do this? I mean, there's many answers to that question, but ask the question, and the answers will come. And then when you have the answers, and that's what's inside, then it flows. Establishing a regular reading habit rather than something else. Does that address your question?
I have follow-up question.
Okay.
While reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we like so many points. It's so helping, but over the time when we read other cantos and things, so I cannot able to remember. It's like evaporating.
Don't worry about it.
So how can I when we read that particular part, it's so like elevating consciousness and it's helping.
It's a cultivation. The whole process of hearing, I mean, let's say, take another topic and deity worship. You do deity worship. So when you begin deity worship, it's, the initial focus is on the procedures and the rituals and the behaviors, and after that's down, then it can be just mechanical. But, we know that's not the purpose of deity worship. It's not the mechanical do the do's and avoid the don'ts. It's a relationship with the deity. And so you continue with the external, and you go towards the real purpose of the deity worship. It's acting in a relationship with the deity. Same with the Bhagavatam. And, so your ability to understand, ability to remember, and so forth, if the why is really strong, that will come. And you can pay attention to some detail, like memorizing verses, reciting verses again and again, or something like that. But if the bhakti isn't there, it stays external. So stay with the why part. Why should I be interested in understanding things and remembering things? Not for the material purpose of a sense of accomplishment, like we learned in school. So you get an A. And you get a pat on the back when somebody said, "Whoa, you got a 4.0, good going." Not like that. It's the relationship with Krishna purpose. That's the why. And then it comes. So then you put the internal together with the external, and then comes better understanding and better remembrance and so forth. It's gradual. You cultivate that relationship with Krishna through the hearing process, and the details will come. Little louder. I was mentioning, she's on, she just has to hold it closer and speak a little louder.
Bhakti can be stopped from the things which are coming from inside.
Yes. Not stopped, but blocked. The power we won't experience the fullness of.
So my question is how much, things which are inside may fall into different buckets, and then how much should be the effort to work on them versus cultivation of bhakti?
Easy question to answer. The horse pulls the cart, not the cart pulls the horse. So the cart is pulled by bhakti. So attention goes to bhakti. Doesn't mean you don't have a cart. On the strength of bhakti, you pay attention to the things that are interfering with it. On the strength of bhakti. Primary, secondary. On the strength of bhakti. So that's again, why? Because I want to be in my relationship with Krishna that's unobstructed. It's the relationship with Krishna. It's not, so I can get some good marks on my report card that I overcame this obstacle, that obstacle, yay. But I want an unobstructed relationship with Krishna. So bhakti is the priority position. And on that strength I attend to other things to enhance that, fulfill that, purify, nurture that. Okay? Yes, over here.
Thank you, Marge. Trying to introspect more in terms of how much our desire for Krishna consciousness is motivated by, as you mentioned, our own desire, or more in the selfless, simply for the satisfaction of Krishna.
Good introspection.
The mind, yeah, if you want to.
So you have a question?
Well, the question is how to distinguish. You mentioned that, and I find sometimes it can be deceiving where I'm doing activities or a mentality in devotional service, but the tendency may be more actually this is for my own satisfaction.
Well, we were discussing this the other day, and it's kind of very simple. We're starting with a mix. So your question specifically is, okay, we're starting with a mix. How do I distinguish between it's for Krishna and how much is like I'm at the center of really I'm thinking about me. The false ego says it's about me. And until false ego dissolves, there's going to be a mix. So that's why I asked the question, what's it like when false ego is gone? According to Lord Kapila Dev's teachings to Devahuti, bhakti has the power to dissolve the subtle body, which means false ego, material mind, material intelligence. It doesn't mean I don't have a sense of self. It doesn't mean I don't have a mind that has thinking, feeling, willing. It doesn't mean that I don't have intelligence, whether to turn left or right. Rather, the intelligence is in pursuance of Krishna's happiness. So that's the barometer or the meter to measure. And until that position, that's bhakti. It's about Krishna's happiness. So assume safely, reasonably, there's a mix. And the humble nature of a Vaishnav is, so many examples, but Queen Kunti's example, Devahuti's example, they're there, but they're saying they're not there. And if one is thinking, well, I'm there, or maybe I'm there, that's a clear indication what is influenced in the wrong way by, an inflated sense of self. The true Vaishnava is thinking just the opposite. Krishna Das Kaviraj, for example. There's so many exemplary Vaishnavas. So to the degree to which that humility is not prominent, there's some indication of the mix is in the wrong side. A comment, my thoughts are, it's not only our tradition that says this. other traditions say this because devotion in service to the personality of Godhead is universal. It's not, we have a franchise and no one else can get it. It's a principle of life where there's no other interest. So, one way, in response to your question, when somebody steps on your toe, so to speak, what's your response? Not only verbally, but and emotionally, and when there's a reversal, how do you handle? Where do your thoughts go with that reversal? Those are good indicators. Or a simple one. When you're, because something that you regularly do, you're before the deity and you're having kirtan. How much are your thoughts on how this is pleasing to the deity versus how much I'm enjoying this activity, for example? It's a whole other thing, whole other experience. Just for example.
I guess I'm specifically the desire to be with Krishna, or in this purport we're hearing about one can live with Krishna.
Yes.
One can. So that type of desire, we understand it's actually a deep desire of the soul. But is that can also be material?
Sure.
I want that for my own.
It's the same answer. It depends on false ego. Is it about me or is it about Krishna? I mean, the language you can read it, it's about me, or your language you can read it, it's about Krishna. And when it's about Krishna, that's what Ananda is. It's not just relief from this, or I'm the enjoyer of a relationship with Krishna. It's Krishna's the enjoyer. That's, of course, it's in degrees. Yes, last question, right behind you.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I was just curious related to Acharya Nishta's question. So, you mentioned, the material side of lust.
Yeah.
And wanting to take Krishna's position as the enjoyer. In relation to what Acharya Nishta said about, wanting to be the enjoyer of being enjoyed by Krishna. To specify, is that desire to want the happiness that you get from it, serving Krishna, the bliss you get from making Krishna happy?
We don't deny the soul's natural condition of happiness. Krishna is Satchitananda Vigraha, and we're tiny, Satchitananda Vigraha, in their spiritual identity. So Ananda is there. It's not to deny our Ananda. Otherwise, it's impersonal. But what is that fullness of Ananda? It's experiencing Krishna's happiness, and that's our happiness. So to hanker for that in our present position is fine. Just be realistic about the mix that's there. It's, I can hanker for that, but when my barometer for happiness is my happiness, not my happiness is Krishna's happiness. So we can hanker for that, but an obstacle is the mix, or the self-centeredness, the material consciousness that's really strongly within or behind or mixed in with I want Krishna's happiness, and the happiness of Krishna's happiness is my hankering. Mixed, especially at our present stage. Just be cautious about that. But hankering for that is good. That's Rupa Goswami's teaching. We should hanker for that. And let that hankering become stronger and stronger. And let it become purer and purer, not continue stronger and stronger, but but I didn't take out, the I'm at the center part. And then we're in a ditch.
Thank you.
Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki